Tonight on America's Hope, we focus on what are we doing for our young people who are struggling to stay alive in tough environments. We'll focus on CHAMPS, a mentoring program on the south side of Chicago. America's Hope starts now. From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this hour. As always, we like to say that we hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. You know what else matters to our families? Our children. And some of our children are being lost to things like drugs and fentanyl and gun violence. There's a disruption among teenagers today. We want to focus on what happens when you mentor a child, what happens when you embrace a child to let them know that you care. So tonight, we're going to speak to Vondale Singleton. He is the founder of the CHAMPS program, which is an outstanding mentoring program receiving accolades from all over the world. And it's based on the south side of Chicago, what many people refer to as the killing fields of America. Let's get started. Well, I'm excited to bring my guest on tonight. He is Vondale Singleton. Some of you in the Chicagoland area may have heard of him because of what he's been able to do through a mentoring program he created called CHAMPS. It began on the south side of Chicago, and CHAMPS is spreading from city to city because of its success. Look, we talk a lot about hope for America. Vondale, who's joining me now, in my opinion, is the epitome of hope in America, and then spreading that hope out even in areas that are often maligned with violence and despair. Vondale, thank you for joining us on the program. Look, it's so important to have you on here because I'd like to have an important discussion on mentoring. As you know, throughout America, there is an absence of fatherhood. And most notably, it happens in the Black community, but now it's spread into other communities as well, wherein men are being challenged to step up and play the role of father when there isn't a father at home. In so many ways, you've been doing that through your CHAMPS program there on the south side of Chicago, helping young men become stronger men and better men. Talk to me about CHAMPS and how you started this.
So first of all, thank you for having me, Kelly. It's a privilege and honor to be across this space with you. CHAMPS is culturally helping and making positive success. And you're right. Many of our young men that come through our program, at least close to 90% of our young men don't have a father living in the home. And so where we come in, we like to be the surrogate. We like to be the stand in the gap. We say, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to follow through. We're going to do all of the things that you deserve and need to have as you navigate what we call identity formation. And that's figuring out your purpose and who you are. So we do it through social emotional learning. We provide free mental health for individuals and families that are attached to our program. And then we provide leadership development. So it's through education, empowerment, and exposure. So we take young men all across the city to the museums, to the plays, downtown. We go fishing, we go camping, just providing exposure and filling in a gap in terms of family structure when it comes to the father. And you're right. It's not just urban city kids. It's all across America, all across the world, really, when you start to think about the role that a father should play in a very important figure. Most young people will tell you, the father is sometimes the first hero that a young man or a young lady would see. And we just, again, want to provide that support and that necessary mentorship and guidance along the way.
So what you've just unpacked there is an incredible program that, as you stated, it helps young people find their way, to find their purpose. And it's so important that they find it early and then start practicing and aiming towards that often. When you began this, what was the atmosphere like at the school where you started this? I mean, what were the kids like before you launched Champs?
Well, before we launched Champs, what we found were, especially our young people navigating, some tumultuous situations. A lot of young people, if I were to go into a room and ask, how many of you know somebody who's been shot and killed? And on the South Side, almost 100%, I would say 99% of the hands go up. And that's to me is just it's mind boggling when you begin to think about it. So we saw the kids wasn't able to focus on the academic lessons because they were still having nightmares about what they saw just yesterday or a couple days before. So we had to address some of those concerns. And then in terms of it was the same ones that ended up in my office at the time. I was the assistant principal at Gary Comer College Prep. And when I started the program, it was, the same students that ended up in my office. And so I got down to the bottom of it. And it was a father story. It was, I don't know
Hmm.
my father. My father's locked up or he's dead. And I said, oh, that's the reason why you're manifesting out negative behavior. So let's get you back on track and let's provide some of that social emotional learning support where we can address some of these deep wounded concerns. And that's why we added the mental health component. So we can provide that level of support from a therapy perspective. Sometimes it's professional help that's needed. We can mentor and we can coach and we can instruct, but we have to get to the root of some of the issues and problems that we're seeing popping up every single day. When kids are being removed from the class and they're not understanding, there's something going on underneath there. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So, when we initially started Champs, it was just that it was to address what academics couldn't do.
Mm. So let me get this straight then, because you are an academic.
Yeah.
you, you went to college, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later. But you took time out, it seems to me, to actually study the problem and try to dig down deep into the soul of those individuals you had in your class and in your room to find out the solution.
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
Absolutely, absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, it was the data that we would use with our staff and teachers to say, what are the metrics that we're measuring across the scale? So we're looking at suspensions, we're looking at detentions, we're looking at attendance, we're looking at GPAs and community service. But every negative metric, it was really the black boys on the bottom across the
Hmm.
scale. And I knew I had a role and a responsibility because to whom much is given, much is required. I'm a product of mentorship. If it wasn't for a mentor, I wouldn't have been able to go to college and get a degree and become an educator. And my mentor told me the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. So those words really rung in me every time I would look at the data across the scale. And I said, we needed to do something about it beyond, again, academics and instruction. They were getting the highest quality of teachers and educators in the space, but it was for those who were not going along to get along that we had to figure out what would be the lever to help drive the levels of greatness and success inside of those potential kids. And so that's what we did with Champs. We just created culturally helping and making positive success. And I said, once we start, we won't stop because that's what they're used to seeing sometimes in their environments. Fathers and male figures saying, hey, we're going to do this for you. We're going to provide, opportunities for you. We're going to take you to Great America or to Disney World. And it never happens. And so that kid becomes hard hearted over the years and they don't allow anybody in and can become a detriment to the community. And so I said, once we started Champs, we were going to be consistent. We were not going to meet every other week. We were going to have to meet every Saturday. And for 11 straight years, we've been going. Of course, we take off for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we'll be in session this upcoming Saturday again. And I'm really proud to share with people the art and the true mark of mentorship is consistency. It's not what you say you're going to do. It's what you do over and over and over again, and that's showing up.
Showing up and being consistent with that, which leads me to that axiom. People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So by you being actively and proactively engaged in caring for these young men, look, what you're doing is not easy, Vondale. I mean, you're talking about the results that have happened, but you're in the thick of an area that is often plagued by violence. In fact, America at one time had termed the south side of Chicago as the killing fields of America. And yet what you're building in these lives, I liken, and since I've been there, I liken it to the dreams of America. You've actually fostered and developed some dreams within these kids that they can dream again and live to, apply the purpose-driven life that you're leading them to accomplish those dreams. That's not easy to accomplish.
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, once individuals come to our website or find us on social media or, come directly to our locations, and we get a lot of inquiries of, potential mentors, I tell them it's a sacrifice. A lot of people see the glory, but they don't know the story. We've had to do funerals, unfortunately, for a lot of kids under the age of 18, and sometimes kids are not doing anything. They just, with their family or sitting on a porch or walking to school and become a victim, of a drive-by or a shooting, where, when we see these types of things happen, we lose on both sides, the perpetrator of gun violence and the victim of gun violence. No one wins in a situation like that, especially when you have kids who are trying to find their way and, be something in the world, and we try to provide and shield our young people from all, like I said, of the things that go wrong. But it's also on the other side of that, a lot of brilliance and a lot of excellence. We've been to more graduations and more prom send-offs than funerals, right? And that don't often get talked about a lot. We've worked with over 8,000 young people in 11 years and counting. And most of those are positive stories that don't often get highlighted. So again, there is arduous, tumultuous times. There are times where we have to fight off compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma because we're so close to the problem. But we also know those who are closest to the problem is often closest to the solution too. So we're not afraid. We're not backing down.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far of America's Hope. If you'd like to see it in its entirety, just click on the link below. Thanks for watching.